Hi everyone, and welcome to my brief demonstration of Routersploit. That sounds kind of like Metasploit, doesn't it? Personally, had a little bit of trouble trying to pick something that we hadn't already covered because we've covered quite a lot in this class, I'm sure you all know. But Routersploit was one that I found a little bit interesting because obviously we know frameworks now at this point, so I was curious to see what other kind of frameworks existed that we could use for exploiting stuff. So Routersploit, what you may have noticed when we were using Metasploit is that Metasploit is primarily for attacking user devices. And what I mean by user devices is just standard computers, something that a user would, be computing data on, supposedly. So your Windows machine or just a regular Ubuntu machine. And so it's not necessarily intended for embedded devices or very obscure devices. And while Metasploit technically could be used to attack routers, it's not. It's not entirely. It's not its purpose, I should say. And so then we have Routersploit, and there we have a little splash in the lower right-hand corner that comes up when you launch the program. And so it is a framework specifically designed for routers and embedded devices. There's also cameras in there, as you'll see when I go and demonstrate the program. One of the largest features is the vulnerability detection and payload. So in Metasploit, if you want to scan something, I believe if you just try to scan something using Metasploit, it'll just launch Nmap, or you can just launch Nmap on your own, and we can do that. But with Routersploit, it includes a few scanners that will detect specific vulnerabilities on your target, and it has a nice bow on it. It's very, very easy to use. And I had no real trouble setting it up. Basically, you just need to go fetch it from Git, and then it's a Python script, but it is not incorporated into the path of Kali, so just run it from the directory. So I'll go ahead and leave this page blank. All right. So here we just have my Kali setup. And over here, I just did a quick Nmap scan, just with no switches, of our Metasploitable box over here, if it hasn't fallen asleep. Yeah, there it is. And because we have DHCP running over here on my network, I like to make sure so that I'm not attacking things that maybe shouldn't be attacked. But we can see all these open ports using Nmap, and that's all well and good. And we can also see it's a virtual machine, so that we know that we're doing it right. And then we could use information to attack it with another vulnerability scanner. That's the key thing. If we're not using a vulnerability scanner, we're kind of flying blind, I should say. So we know the ports are open, we don't know what they're vulnerable to. So we can go ahead and run Routersploit here, and it looks a whole lot like Metasploit. They are developed by different people. I know that because we got Threat 9 versus Rapid 7, I believe, develops Metasploit. And if you know how to use Metasploit, Routersploit will not be too far out of your league. So we can just go ahead and show scanners, and we can see the different kind of scanners that we have available to us. And this will show us vulnerabilities on whatever device that we're trying to attack. And this Routersploit can certainly be used on a regular user device, not a router, but you'll find that the exploits, and just the exploits are very much curtailed to embedded devices, specific router architectures, and the like. And so if you look this program up, pretty much everybody will be using the AutoPwn scanner, and it's pretty cool. I like the sound of that. Okay, and then I believe we have some more help options. There we go. Yeah. Of course, we can't just run it, so we'll go ahead and set a target of the Metasploitable box. I attempted to run it on my actual router at home, and it's not a vulnerable architecture, and we keep it very much updated. So Didn't manage to find any vulnerabilities with that, and it took quite a while to scan because it tried literally everything. So I won't make you sit through that, but the scan for Metasploitable is relatively set target 1.2.168.1.26. The scan for Metasploitable does actually reveal some stuff that we can use, and so just like Metasploit, we can just set the target and then run. And when we have a scanner used, it'll start a vulnerability scan. And so I'll just analyze these results here. So we want a green check mark. I don't believe we're going to get any here, just because it is not a router. However, we do it'll find some default credentials, and you'll see those in a minute. And then we have these blue stars. It couldn't be verified, so for whatever reason, it can't figure out whether or not it's vulnerable. And you'll see this, it has multiple threads. It'll say that they're starting and stopping as the scan goes on. And that's just because it's multi-threaded. It wants to get it done quickly. And so there we saw the exploit scan finished up. And now we have the default credential scan. So one of the largest flaws in any network configuration is a poor network administrator leaving the default credentials. And we all know that's lots of fun. And so here it just has all of the default credentials stored, and it'll scan against those for the different services. And because Metasploit has both an FTP and an HTTP server running on it, we will be able to see default credentials when it decides to come up here. It might take a little bit just because it is scanning quite a bit. So I suppose actually I might want to talk about how you might want to use this. So while this would serve the same kind of purpose as Metasploit because it is a framework, but it has different intended targets. And like I said, well, you certainly could use Metasploit for everything. It may not be what you're looking for when you want to compromise a router, and we're not always going to be compromising regular user machines. Oh yeah, it just found a default credential in the SSH there, and so we have a green check mark. And we certainly can use an exploit to take advantage of that. But with these default credentials things, what you'll typically want to do is just to access it using the default credentials. And this is taking a little bit, so I'll talk about what we'll see if I were to use an exploit. So I can't really use an exploit on what we found here. To be able to use an exploit, I'd need one of these to be true. And if it ever decides to finish the scan, we'll find that there aren't any router exploits available for Metasploit, but we will find that there are default credentials available. Like if you look up Metasploitable, you'll find the service account and the credentials that we found using Hydra before, etc. Let's see. I'm just going to put in a pause here because I don't know how long it's going to take, so I'll be back in a moment. Alright, we're back and finished up here. So it couldn't confirm any regular vulnerability, and that's why I won't be able to use any of the exploits below, but it'll scan for all these default credentials here. So you can see the SSH, Telnet, and the FTP, and I don't believe this is all the accounts that are available on these three services, but any one of these will get you in, obviously. And if we have found an exploit, we can just do the show exploits here, and we have some generic ones up here with the SSH auth keys. I tried that one, and it doesn't work because, even though it's using default credentials, it's not what the exploit is. And our exploits center around specific routers and router architectures, along with cameras. See down here we have some camera stuff. Yeah, and so we have a lot of Netgear, a lot of Belkin, and a few D-Link routers, and we have the specific ones here. And like I said, my router, for whatever reason, I believe that it was extraordinarily vulnerable, but it is not. We do keep it up to date, but I figured that there was something that we had missed. But apparently, we had covered everything. So, yeah, you can see here, just use the exploit, just like in Metasploit, and then we can just run it, and it keeps the target, and it's not vulnerable in this case. So if we were to get an exploit working, the goal of Routersploit typically is to get it to dump information. And if you look it up, you'll find examples of people having vulnerable routers dump information. It'll have some tags at the top and bottom, and then maybe some user accounts. So yeah, if it hasn't already found default credentials, it'll find user accounts and things like that you can use to further exploit the router outside of this. Although you can certainly gain a shell using Routersploit, and we can see because it has payloads. I'll just do show all, and of course we have encoders, just like in Metasploit. If I can find, did I just scroll past it? No, so it has default credentials for a lot of stuff. Oh, there we go. And so we have all the regular payloads that you found in Metasploit, and a few that I didn't recognize, a few that I didn't see in Metasploit. And I suppose that concludes my brief demonstration of it. There's not a whole lot more I can show you. You can search for things just like in Metasploit, and then if you have a shell open, we don't have a shell here because my setup doesn't allow it, but if you have a shell open, you can just execute anything in the shell from outside the actual computer. And so that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, you can grab it from that GitHub link there, and there's a tools.kali.org page on it. When I was looking for things to use, tools.kali.org was very deceptive because I believed everything on there was already available in Kali, and it is not. So anyone who hasn't actually uploaded their video yet, just bear that in mind. But I thank you for listening to my brief demonstration, and I hope you got something out of it. Enjoy the rest of your day.